Okay, it is 7 o'clock. Let's call this meeting to order. Let's do the roll call. Lacey Wolverstone, you're in Ryan.
Brian Singer, Ward 2.
Nikki Lyon, Ward 1.
Deborah McIsaac, Mayor.
Jeff Sures, Ward 1.
You want to be part of roll call?
Oh.
Don Hughes, City Attorney. And we have, Mr. McGreevy, are you there?
Yep, Brian McGreevy, Ward 2.
He's on the road. So all present and accounted for, ma'am. Let's go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Hey, we're gonna skip the approval of the agenda because it was submitted 24 hours ago and we really can't change those things due to open meeting law. And so we do have the approval of the minutes though. So we have December 20th. That would be the green one. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Okay, I'll look good when I went through them. I don't know if you guys noticed anything, but
Be still my heart, Travis Shears approves of our minutes on the first try. That's awesome. I know, we did good, huh? That's an A+ for you. A+ for you. Yeah, I went over them myself.
can I make a comment on
Yeah.
that? On section 12B under SMGA consultant discussion,
B, got it.
Councilman Sures noted that it would have been better to have had more information on this decision. I think it's important to note that more information was available,
I did say that.
but in the notes, in the agenda, or in the notes, if you could look at it.
You want me to add that there was more information available and it's available to him? Okay, I can do that.
Thank you.
So any other suggested amendments?
I make a motion to approve with amended
Did you get the change, Lacey?
change.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the amended minutes.
Second.
Second race.
Go ahead.
Second.
We have Travis, and then we have Ryan with the second. All those favor and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. McGreevy. Any opposed? Motion passes with amendment. So we got that one done. December 27th.
I did not notice anything that needed to be changed on that one.
Zach, did you have anything on that one? Oh, okay.
Make a motion to approve minutes of the 27th.
Nikki, you gonna take this one?
Yeah, I'll second.
We have Travis with Nikki on the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. On to the next item. Look at us zipping along. Approval of claims payable. I'm assuming that's the orange one. We can't miss it. All of these items should be on the website. We'll update the website with that.
Yeah, we printed it out. Right, so
We'll get this on. We'll get this on there.
I'll post it tomorrow.
With the weather, we had a bit of a delay.
I checked these and I think, they all look correct. I'll make a motion to, approve the disbursements.
So Nikki's gonna make a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ryan's gonna do the second. Is that okay?
What?
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we are on to public time. So for those of us that are new to public time, all you gotta do is stand up and introduce yourselves and say what your address is, so we have it for the record. And then whatever it is that you like to say, we're happy to do it.
Addison Hendricks, 211 Lovely Avenue. Here with my fiance Andrea. We just moved here a year ago.
Okay.
And actually, we're looking at the ordinances, and we would like to propose an idea for chickens in town. We've been talking about it a little bit, and if we did, let's say 10 birds and do a license for every 5, like we do for dogs and pets in town. Do it on an annual basis or biannual basis for, every 5. With the price of eggs going up and up and up, I mean, it's something that'd be nice to be able to have at home and be able to teach our kids kind of about reaping the benefits of their hard work as well.
Well, first of all, welcome to Baltic.
Yeah.
Sorry it took us so long to meet you. Second of all, chickens has been a point of discussion for years in this town
Oh, perfect.
with varied responses. And so, I think and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, it might be best if we have something in writing to discuss.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of things to consider with chickens. Didn't there used to be an ordinance that allowed
Well, we
chickens?
used to have all kinds of different farm animals, and Ben Kringen had, it's basically an entire farm in town, but kind of as things have changed over the course of time, for whatever reason, and that was before my time, that got changed, where you can have, it kind of the blanket coverage on all farm animals, but you're probably around for that, John, if you remember that.
I think that Ben's land is still grandfathered in, so he's still kind of a local farm, but I think
He doesn't have anything there though.
he does. Yeah. And so, I think where it last stand, and I'm gonna have to review the ordinances. Because I do believe that chickens are prohibited at this time, and so there was all sorts of reasons for that. I think you make some valid points, especially with the cost of eggs, without question. If I recall correctly, the last points of discussions were, in the name of everything that's holy, no roosters, and, the type of chickens was also a point of concern. There definitely is a group of people here that are in Baltic that are interested in chickens without question. There are other people that are concerned that it might go off the rails, so I think that if we can craft something that makes sense and is limited, so it doesn't go off the rails, I think it's something that we can definitely discuss. And so if you're on Lovely, where are you in Lovely?
11,
Just over here.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Travis.
Okay.
And this is Nikki.
Hi.
They're your aldermen.
Okay.
And so what I would do is, before you leave, if you can give them your guys' phone number, then, maybe they can craft something in writing so we can have a place to start. The nice thing is Travis has a lot of historical knowledge. Nikki has even more historical knowledge. And so you have two very, very capable, well, that's because she was on council a while ago. Not everybody knows that. Not everybody knows that. And so, you have two good representatives to help you guys try to figure out where to start with that, and then that way it can be presented. Should it start, John, should it start with P and Z? Or do
Could, I mean, I think that it could certainly originate here too. You might ask P and Z for a recommendation or their thoughts, but to me, that's kind of it's probably a council function.
Okay, all right. So then, what I'd recommend doing is starting with the existing ordinances that cover what you want and then make a recommended change to that. And then if you can fortify with that with any research, then that helps us all make that decision better. But it's definitely a conversation that we want to have publicly, because I know there's a lot of people that have opinions on that. And so we can welcome that conversation and then figure out what's best for the city.
There were a lot of conversations, I want to say, it's probably been a year and a half ago, when we brought up that same topic too.
Sure.
And I don't know where it really died at or what, why it never went forward and what it did, but one of the biggest things is just comparing to other cities, see what everybody else does. That's what we use as a benchmark. Everybody else too is, figure out, well, what works for you guys, what works for you guys. That helps us craft some sort of an idea and get it rolling, but.
I was looking at the city of Sioux Falls, it just kind of as a reference on that one, and it's up to 6 birds, no roosters, and that's all they have for it.
What were the reasons against it?
Well, it was changed before I came on, so I don't know all the reasons. I can go back and ask some people that may be involved with that too.
Sorry.
What the reason was.
Part of the containment of the birds.
Well, I think, I don't know if it wasn't regulated enough where things got a little carried away, neighbors got wound up, and I don't really know what was.
We had a couple of citizens that decided to launch into their own poultry business. Telling everybody, and then we're less than forthcoming. over what they had and then we had a couple of council members who strong farm background and had real concerns about the raccoons, the feed, the possums, and so there tends to be some people that have a farm background, and I'm not saying people with farm backgrounds can't be pro chickens in town, but there was just a lot of concern over rodents, possums, raccoons. And so I think it just kind of got off to a bad start. And so I ended up actually, prosecuting an ordinance violation, which is one of my least favorite things to do against anybody in Baltic, but it dealt with just trying to ask for forgiveness rather than asking for permission, and then not being truthful about what was actually in the yard. It's just, it's great that you're here. This is the way to get this started.
Definitely.
I have a neighbor with chickens in Sioux Falls. And, we can hear the hens clucking in the morning. It doesn't bother me. And they're not a problem, and there are no roosters, so there's no crowing. But different people have different ideas about it. So, but we can understand why. So,
100%.
You're not the only one in town that wants chickens.
exactly.
No.
Yeah.
But the key is to work with the process, because I think that created a bad taste that probably caused people to not to want to entertain it for 3 or 4 years.
Gotcha.
So look at you changing the world all by yourself. With cotton candy and everything.
Yeah.
No, that's perfect. So if you can circle up with Travis, and, with Nikki, that would be wonderful. If you need to leave early for any reason, obvious, reasons, then their phone numbers are on the website, so you can reach them under the government pages, okay? And then we look forward to having you back to figure out what you guys can look with.
Great, you're looking at Sioux Falls,
Yeah.
wonderful.
We love best practices for other cities, so.
Do we need to do a petition at all, or, go around and try to get the signature forms?
It's one way to do it. It's one way to do it. Otherwise, if you thoroughly research, you can do that too. I mean, it's really depending on how you want to do it. And I mean, going around and talking to your neighbors will certainly be a great way for you to understand what everybody's opinions are on that. I could probably direct you to a couple people that are very pro chicken that will be very excited that you're trying to do this again. And, but then I could also direct you to some people that are very anti-chicken. And so, it just depends on what you want. And so when you talk to these two, then you just let us know what we can do to help you understand the process. Because that's really what this is about, is active citizenship. So congratulations for coming. Yeah, is there anything else we can help you with? Okay, Lacey, you got all their information? We're good to go? Okay, anybody else? On public time? You're looking at me, but you're not raising your hand, so I don't know if you want something or not.
Well, so this is, I didn't realize this was public time, but, so anyway, my name is Randy Marsh, and
Oh, hi, Randy.
I live in the Grant Park development.
Yeah.
So here tonight, just to kind of hear things out, see what's on the agenda, things like that, I know there's some concerns over the development between drainage, some other issues, and things like that. I know as a resident and stuff in the development and stuff, Brian have to paying to have snow removal done. I know there's some things being worked out. So, but anyway, I just kind of curious, long term, I'm hoping everything gets resolved. As a new resident, been moving here from Sioux Falls, it's kind of unsettling, that this is going on. I don't know how the particulars, just got a packet on our door one night, So anyway, I was kind of curious as to, how the citizens, of Grant Park will be informed, of things, I get very little communication as, a resident, so going forward, how do things get communicated, to the residents, like what's happening, what's changing, things like that.
Well, Randy, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to finally meet you.
Yep.
So, there are several ways that citizens can learn about what's going on in the city.
Yep,
The first and best resource is the website.
Okay.
So we put almost everything on the website.
sure,
Primarily, the calendar page probably holds all the information of any city council meetings, any recordings, any attachments that are affiliated with those meetings.
sure,
If there's anything that are associated to those meetings that we refer to a resource
sure,
that maybe isn't there, you can let us know. We're also working on setting up a page with other public documents. So that way those are accessible to the taxpayers that are asking for them. I'm getting lots of requests
Sure.
for, public information. And so I'm vetting with our legal team to see what we can and can't do and how we can make that available to the citizens. And, otherwise, there's a text service that you can subscribe to when you go to the homepage of the city website. It pops up. It's super annoying. It comes up every single time, no matter how many times you come up on the website, it pops up. So you can subscribe to the text service.
okay,
And we are working on an email engine that you will hear about tonight.
okay,
And we're also going to be talking about a Facebook page. There is a city Facebook page, but that's kind of a more formal construct. And so we're going to be talking about an elected official Facebook page.
Okay.
So those are some tools that are available to you.
Shoppers news.
Oh, thank you. And then we have on page 3 of the shopper
Yep.
that comes in your mailbox every Wednesday. You can see highlights that happen with the city of Baltic there. So if you kind of want to know what's going on, we have to give a week update, so it's not like to the minute, but at least it gives you some highlights of what's going on in the city, things to watch out for, that kind of stuff. And is there anything else that you can think of? Our official newspaper of record is the Del Rapids, what do they call it now? Journal, Del City Journal. And so anything that we publish for legal purposes ends up in that publication as well. And so, did I cover everything, Dick? You're pretty astute of all our forms of communication. Did I miss anything? I think we're good. Yeah, is that everything? That is Deb, isn't it? That's the different, otherwise, all the aldermen are available. Their phone numbers are on the website. You can call them anytime you want.
Okay.
They love it. And of course, I'm available as well,
okay,
as you are well aware.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
In terms of your status as a property owner in the development, Mr. Hefty's lawyers are on either side of you,
you're actually in
so,
a sandwich of the
Okay.
Grant Park attorneys.
and there are 2 pending lawsuits that Grant Park Capital has brought against the city, so
okay,
we're greatly hampered in terms of what can be discussed in a forum like this because of pending litigation. So
sure,
if you can't get it from the Grant Park Capital, then, or legal counsel, then you obviously may want to consider retaining your own lawyer to find out kind of how you sit
Sure.
legally, because we can't give you legal advice and we can't comment on pending litigation.
sure, sure. Yeah, as moving here, the Baltic and stuff, like I said, new resident and stuff,
Mhm.
It's unfortunate that this situation is arose. It's unsettling,
Mhm.
because as a homeowner and resident, during the winter months, I think I expressed it in one of my emails,
You did.
emergency services, right? You want to be able to, in case an emergency at your home, you need an
Mhm.
ambulance, fire, or just getting in and out of the development to work,
Mhm.
So, and I know there's issues with drainage, water, things like that. So,
Well, I can tell you in the pending litigation, Grant Park Capital is alleging that the city is responsible basically for the development,
sure.
as if they had accepted all the public improvements and all of that.
Mhm.
That's all I'm gonna say about that. The city is saying, no, the city has not accepted the development,
Sure.
and the city has not accepted the infrastructure and public improvements. And then we have the other drainage thing going that you're talking about, so.
Sure.
Trying to be transparent and balanced as possible. Those are the issues. And so,
If you really want to get, all of the information to the level of extent that we have it, literally, if you go to the city's website on the calendar page, you
Sure.
can see the timeline of all of the meetings, both the planning and zoning meetings as well as the city council meetings. And that's pretty much going to give you the public record to
Okay.
date of things.
Sure.
And then if you choose to view the public litigation that is available through Minnehaha County's site, right? Isn't that all public documents?
you have to probably go to the courthouse.
Yeah, at this time.
Ask for document numbers and Yeah,
which actually may be referred to in some of the attachments.
We'd be happy to share with you.
Sure.
yeah, and so it's all public record.
Yeah, so it's not that we're not trying to give it to you, we're just trying to figure out the good vehicle for it.
Yeah, one of the discussions my wife and I have had, like we moved here from Sioux Falls, to be closer to work. Live in a smaller community, where it's more quiet, less traffic.
Mhm.
And then, when you move in, you have this whole thing and it's like, oh, well, you don't expect this.
Mhm.
So it's like, well, for residents here, we want to fit in, we want to, have the best available life here that it has to offer. So,
Randy, I can guarantee you that there probably isn't a single person here that wants to happen what's happening.
yeah.
And I can probably say on both sides, none of us want this to
Status quo isn't really working for anyone.
Sure.
Yeah, so we all want a solution.
It's not working. Nobody's being served by the existing.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming, though. I do appreciate it. Is there anything else that we can answer for you?
No, that's kind of it for right now. Just kind of want to, make my voice know a little bit, get to know the council and what's going on, so I'm informed and kind of make some, decisions from that and, and what's being done and.
We're here to serve you.
Yep.
Thank you for coming. Debbie, you had raised your hand.
Jeff Pauls at 416 Lovely. Could you lovely people please remind our citizens that no matter the weather, if they take their pet off their property, they are responsible for all the doggy do.
Okay,
Thank you.
shall we put that in the shopper?
Yep.
Perfect. Maybe on the Facebook?
Yep. David, thanks you.
You're welcome. Tell David hi. Is there anyone else that, yes, sir.
My name is Brian Tweets. I'm actually Randy's.
Hi, Brian. How are you? Yeah,
Hi, it's nice
yeah.
to put a face to it.
Isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah.
I live across the street from Randy, 522 Peyton.
Yeah.
New development. I have a lot of issues to unpack, but probably for all different forums. Randy, don't worry about checking for that shopper's news in your mail because you still don't have the mail access. Neither do I.
Yeah.
So we've been there for months and months and months, and everybody seems to want to point the finger about why we can't get mail. We still do pay Baltic tax, or part of Minnehaha County. My wife and I have dug through the financial records of this town and realized that you guys pay Minnehaha County for snow removal. We're part of Minnehaha County. Regardless of whether or not you accept us into Baltic, we still live in this county. We still pay some of the highest property taxes in any. So I want to know what's going to happen with that because it's not Hefty's responsibility, whether, that's my opinion, but whether anybody wants to agree with that or not. At the end of the day, we still pay Minnehaha County tax, we pay Baltic City tax, and we are just as much a part of Baltic when it comes to every other service that is being utilized in this town, whether it's for internet, electrical,
Mhm.
gas, you name it. My kids go to public school, I have 3 of them.
Mhm.
So it just seems to be a very nitpicky concern when all of a sudden we want to talk about who's gonna move the snow. I've had to miss 2 days of work now because that snow hasn't gotten removed and it's been drifted over because even to this day and as the time I'm speaking, it's still not being removed in its entirety. They have given us a channel to go down as far as our street is concerned because they haven't even touched the other street that connects us to the rest of the grid. So if that one street plows, it gets blown in, I can't get to work now. I manage a financial institution. My wife works from home as an RN. We have kids with IEPs. We have volunteer firemen on our street. We're very active members of this community. So we have several issues that we'd like to bring to point. I'm not trying to take up everybody's time. With an hour-long explanation on either one of them, I just want the point to be known and to be a part of the public record that we do live there. I second Randy's opinion when it comes to basic public services that we have been declined. I literally had to take my own snow blower while I was off work to basically plow out my neighbor so he could make it to an emergency call the day that we had all that snow and he was unable to make it even to the fire station, let alone that call.
I was on the phone with him.
Yeah, it's completely unacceptable, period. So regardless of how the council feels about it or how the lawyers in front of me feel about it, something needs to be done, enough said. I'll
Have you-
follow up on every single one of those line items.
Have you, as citizens, taken these same concerns to the developer?
I'm not going to comment on any further than that while on a public record.
And that's fine. It just, that would also be an appropriate course of action.
Take under advisement.
Thank you, Brian. It's nice to meet you face to face. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'm Dana Keller, it's my wife Tiffany, we live 606 Elizabeth, so we're in the development as well. You know, kind of like you said, you know, our tax dollars, I mean, I'm not paying my tax money to the developer stuff on the streets. But we lived here for 7 years before, like, not an issue to go build a nice house in Baltic, have a family here, want to go to school. I was like a citizen of all this town.
That's not our intent.
Well, it sure seems like it.
I can appreciate your perspective, but again, here you all are. Have you taken the same concern to the developer? Because as joint landowners of that development, you have that voice. If you read your covenants, you have that voice. And so
It's not being enforced regardless the way it is. It's a guy with a big white fence. It's completely blown out of our neighborhood covenants. So if somebody isn't gonna follow the rules, that covenants isn't worth the paper it's written on.
well, and
End of story.
it's not the end of the story, because if you look at your covenants, the people that can enforce the covenants are the landowners. And you have 3 people right here in the development that can collectively, and there is a process for that, to enforce covenants. So you do have that power. You have a lot more power than you think you do. And so I've talked to your wife, I believe, Brian, about this at length. And I've talked to almost every person in the development regarding what the covenants may do for you if you choose to act on them. If you don't choose to act on them, that's simply your choice. We as the city are doing what we can to try to resolve this, but we're only one of the parties. And so I would highly encourage you as landowners of the development to also voice your concerns to the developer, who is an equal party to your concerns. Is there anything else I can address?
So I'm paying the developers for stuff, is what we're saying. My tax dollars go to them.
The developer is the oversight landowner.
To
Mhm.
Baltic, or Stonewall, correct? That part of it?
You are a private development at this time because your development has not been fully accepted by the city.
Can you be omitted from your Baltic tax then?
No, because you're annexed. You're annexed.
So.
That means-
Pay for money, but not give the services for it.
We do offer services.
Snow services are operating.
Well, basically at this stage of the game, as we see it, you are like a private gated community. In all aspects, you're part of the city, other than within the scope of the private gated community. That's the best. It is not the absolute analogy. It's the best analogy that I can offer that maybe we can kind of all understand. There is a difference between being approved versus being accepted. Those are 2 separate steps. And we're more than happy to discuss this with you in a separate forum, because it's definitely a long conversation, but I do think your next step is to voice your concerns to the developer in an equal standing. If you choose not to do that, then you choose not to do that. We're always here to listen, and we're always here to support you as citizens of our city, but I think that maybe there's a disconnect in how you fully understand, and maybe you need some more facts, and if you need those, we're happy to provide them.
Tiffany Keller, 606 Elizabeth. My one question is, why were streets plowed last year in the development by the city, but not this year?
I don't know. I wasn't here. I have no idea what the rationale was, and I can't find anything in the minutes that explain the rationale for it.
Okay.
Mhm. What I do know is because of the pending DANR case, we can't.
Okay.
Mhm. Any other questions? These are good questions. We're here to listen, and we always will. And our phones are always available to speak with you on any level. And we'll help you to the fullest extent that we can. But like John said, right now, the current situation is not satisfactory to either parties. And so hopefully finding a solution is something that we can do. But we're happy to keep you apprised.
I mean, right now I can tell you, again, this is Brian, from 522 Peyton, but I can tell you right now that as members of that community,
Mhm.
right now, we do feel exiled. And when it comes to taxes, I'm not gonna let you off the hook on that. Like, we pay an enormous amount of taxes.
Mhm.
If you saw my mortgage bill, you'd be literally stunned.
Well, your taxes are gonna go up if the city was forced by the judge, in this case, in pending litigation. That's what you need to understand. We did not file suit against the developer. The developer filed 2 lawsuits the day before Thanksgiving against the city. And if the city is obligated to take over this whole operation and assume the duties of the developer, which are in our deal are
Expensive.
inappropriate or state law, your taxes are gonna go way up
I
higher.
could care less. I could care less. I'll write the check. Why don't you bring your shovel over and scoop my damn snow? How about that?
I tell you what, you've got two lawyers that represent Grand Park Capital, which is your developer, and they're right in front of you.
And I've got one in front of me right now that doesn't know what he's talking about. So here's the deal.
Hey, look, you know what, sir, you're out of order. You're way out of line on this. Why don't you read the two lawsuits that are pending and become informed? You're a smart guy, you're a banker.
Yeah.
You ought to read the legal documents, and then you'll at least be informed.
Brian,
Because
You
you're,
must be more informed than you think I am, so thank you.
well, wonderful, but you know what?
Then there's the fact that majority of your taxes go to the school. Bring this issue up to the school board.
I have 3 kids in school. I'm very well aware of where my taxes are allocated. That's not what this is about. What I'm talking about is the fact that living in that development in a $500,000+ house, I can't even drive down my damn street because people want to just sit here and bicker about who's gonna bring their shovel to the party.
there's no bickering involved.
Then bring a plow down our street.
Well, are
And
you,
if somebody damages a curb, or on the conversation that we've had before, if somebody damages a curb, deal with it in the spring. I shouldn't have to deal with it right now. You wanna talk
Right.
about where the snow is gonna drain? Deal with that in the spring. You're gonna have a bigger problem than you think you're gonna. It's not about who pushes snow where. I was on the phone conversation with my wife, heard every word you said.
good, then you know.
I do know, and I know that you talk in circles and you like to point fingers.
No, I
That's all
don't.
I'm gonna say, because this conversation is gonna go nowhere, because everybody doesn't wanna take any responsibility. Because at the end of this meeting, I'm gonna go home to a terribly plowed neighborhood. And
Then I
everybody else is
suggest-
gonna go home to nicely plowed streets, aren't you?
Well, it's really
Can't
unfortunate.
prove it.
It's really unfortunate that you have may or may not taken this up with the developer who currently has the responsibility of the street maintenance up.
I'll refer you to her comment. Plowed last year, but your answer is, I don't know. Perfect excuse to get out of an answer.
We had different staff last year too.
That's
He wasn't
wonderful.
I'm just
It sounds like
thinking the
that
other
staff
night.
got something done.
Do you have any insight about why we plowed them?
I don't know why it would have been filed this or last year. I wasn't a part of the conversations. I think
So we're not gonna sit here and guess. We have no documentation about why it happened. There's no rationale for why it happened, and we don't have staff to ask why it happened. We literally cannot give you a distinct answer. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Probably because you should plow the streets of your county.
It seems like a pretty basic service.
I mean,
There's a lot more information to what you guys are trying to very, very much simplify. And so as soon as we can get to a reasonable solution to this situation, I think all citizens should understand all of the facts that are happening, how it's transpired, how it started, what's been missed, what's been overlooked. And the fact that it's the DANR that's enforcing all of this and not the city, and the fact that we didn't file suit at all, the developer did. We've been trying to reach resolution, and we can prove that in all of our documentation.
Maybe what you want to do is write the judge a letter, because Grant Park wanted to force the city without a hearing to take over the development, and that's what the judge wrote on it.
Denied.
Okay,
There's a lot more documentation that you're not aware of, and we can certainly make that available. Here's what I'm gonna do. This has been a very enriching discussion, and I'm very glad that you're all here. However, I'm going to close this item for the evening as a matter of public time, and we're gonna move on with the agenda because this is not going to be a productive conversation. But I do appreciate you coming, and again, we are available to you. We apologize for your consternation for the situation. But we are doing everything we can within the scope of our authority to try to reach a resolution.
We would just really appreciate you being not being anti. You should really go back at your previous Facebook posts of the last several years. Paints a pretty clear picture about where you stand on things.
I'm very clear about where I stand on things, Brian.
We
Thank
know,
you.
we've read all of it, so it's cool.
Yeah. I have nothing to hide.
Oh,
you know, personal attacks.
it's not a personal attack.
Sure it is.
No, it isn't.
Well, you're not even being affected.
This is unproductive. This is-
Bad way.
So thank you for your time.
Mhm.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you like. That's what we're here for, but we're gonna move on along in the agenda. So we're on to old business, and that is the resolution of 2023-01 fines and fees. The reason why we're looking at this again is because there were some items that we need to review I do believe because of the bandwidth we've had with recent events, we still need to review these items. So it would be my recommendation that we table this one more time until we actually have the ability to review these and make sure that they're comparable and that they're updated and if there's anything that we're missing. So can I get a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to table resolution 2023-01.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
So Travis is the first, Nikki is the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Then we will table that for another meeting. And John, may I, before we pass this, can we table this until we have the information, or do we have to continue to table it until we?
Each month.
Well, each month, Deborah.
That's fine.
It does not have to be an agenda item unless you want it to be.
Okay, well, we'll just table it until we have the data and I'll just keep it in old business so everybody knows that we haven't forgotten about it. So, motion passes. So we're on to that. And then 50, or just doing timestamps here. On to employee handbook review. There's also multiple items in the handbook that we want to review and, in talking to council, it was recommended that we just take that review and then bring the employee handbook review back in May's meeting. So that way we have the time to take a look at it instead of continuing to kick the can. So can I get a motion to move that to May? Unless you guys want to do something otherwise.
No, if you want to move it to May, I'll make a motion to move it to May.
Okay, Travis is in favor of moving to May's agenda. Brian, you're gonna second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect, motion passes. And then we're on to resolution 2206, necessity of sidewalk curbs and gutter. Upon further review of this, it would be my recommendation to send this to the P and Z committee so that way they can take a look at it from a more technical standpoint to see the ins and out of it. It was a very complicated document and there was a lot of moving pieces. And so I would really like to have our technical experts review that and come up with some recommendations and or edits before we review it. So that's my recommendation. Would anybody like to make further comment or make a motion?
Well, I think it's a good project for P and Z. It's right up their alley, so I'll make a motion to, I think I'm gonna refer that to planning and zoning.
Sure.
So we have a motion to refer it to planning and zoning. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ryan is the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any? Okay, motion passes. Sorry, Brian, I didn't mean to
Yeah,
not wait for you.
Yep.
Okay, so on to new business. So we do have a vacancy for a Ward 2 position, and so we're going to have the publications done. There's going to be a calendar of, there is a calendar available on the state website. Can we make that available on the local website as an attachment? Let's go ahead and do that. So that's publicly available so we can get that information available to you. There are, I believe, I have to look at the exact date. Oh, I have it right here. Just to make everybody aware.
April 11th, isn't it?
Mhm.
The originals are probably the good ones.
Yeah. Where is that? I should speak about that.
Well, Tifa's gonna begin taken out on January 27th.
Yeah, so petitions can start being had on January 27th. And so, in Ward 2, you can call City Hall to get the exact number. We have to verify with our registered voter count to see exactly what the number is. But if you have any questions, you're welcome to call City Hall. Or otherwise, you can call the Secretary of State's office, and then we're going to try to have election resources available, although they will not be comprehensive. They will be available for a Ward 2 position on our council. So that is just for information purposes. The next thing is the Excel Energy Grant. Zach, do you have an update on that? I had not had a chance to look at my email. So if you sent me something today, I have not gotten it.
No, I dropped a check off, so the check's made out to the city of Alden.
Okay,
I spoke with Excel and, they said they prefer the city. Brian had updated them that it's gonna be focused on the sign after getting our initial,
right.
expense, how much that was gonna cost. So they're fine with, postponing any land studies until later and just focusing on the sign.
Okay,
They are gonna track that. They ask, and I I felt better to get this, I guess, but
Yeah,
they just asked that the $5,000 gets you marked for a sign.
absolutely.
So if you guys would like to keep working with us on that, that'd be great. If we
Yes.
come up with something, that's fine, but they're gonna,
So my question was, is that Ryan had gotten some quotes. Do you have access to those quotes? Because I wasn't able to locate them in my,
I don't have any updates.
okay,
I think we're probably gonna have to take over on that.
okay. How about you and I convene tomorrow and we'll just figure out how we want to divide and conquer and get that done. I don't think we want to put up a sign in 2 feet of snow anyway, right? Okay, I think we got some time. Okay, perfect. So Zach and I will reconvene on that. So just so you guys understand what's going on, Xcel Energy gave us a $5,000 grant per the BADF applying for that with Ryan Solberg's help. And so what that money is going to be earmarked for is a welcome to Baltic sign to update it, because as you guys have seen, as you drive into town coming from the west, that sign's a little dilapidated. So we're going to try to get that up to speed. So that's what that's for. And then we have been for months asking for quotes to expand our city hall meeting room because it gets all nice and cozy in here. And we have one quote verbally promised to come, but I don't think we've received it yet. And I don't think that we've received any other interest in the quote. So as soon as we get the quotes, then we'll have that as an item on the agenda. So that is going to have to get tabled too, because it's an incomplete item. And then Travis had brought up that in the past that we've had a contract with the American Legion for meeting purposes. And so Travis had asked that we discuss whether or not we want to continue a contract with the Legion, or how do we want to move forward on that. I believe in the past that amount was $3,000 a year, but it was used for meeting space for council as well as other committees to meet in that space. And so I think we've had brief conversations about this already. But there wasn't really a formal decision. And at this point in time, we haven't asked for a contract from the Legion. And so that's kind of the update on that. Does anybody have any thoughts?
My question was more if it's still worthwhile to use it, obviously we're trying to use this space because it's more practical to have all our information right here. That's where that conversation started from, was I don't know what all other committees use it and how often they all meet, between Parks and Rec and BADF or whoever. So whether we just want to go to using, renting it on a per basis or a yearly contract like we did last time, that was where the conversation started from. So I don't know how many times other committees use it under the city's umbrella, I guess is probably the best way to say it.
Parks and Rec hasn't met because it hasn't been formally appointed yet. So there have been no meetings for that. BADF typically meets there once a month, but you met here once because it was warmer.
It takes planning to warm up Legion.
Right. And so I know we've had a couple of other ad hoc committee meetings here as opposed to the Legion, particularly in the winter, because sometimes it is just easier to meet here. And then with the public, the ability to record meetings also makes it easier. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just more feedback. So I don't know what you guys want to do. If you want to think about it, if you want, I love your idea of the ad hoc, because this certainly meets our needs on most occasions.
Sure.
And like Travis said, I know it's been really nice when we had to look stuff up. We can actually go to the files, and I mean, how many times have we sent you to go looking for something, right, Lacey? And so it's nice because it's all here. When we need the big screen, we have the big screen, which is nice. And the Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi is a lot more stable. So it's from a recording standpoint, it's a lot more stable to have the Wi-Fi here as opposed to my hotspot on my cell phone.
And when you guys go into executive session, it's nice not to have to stand out on the street.
Oh, Deb, thank you for
Agreed.
that. So when we go into executive session, all the citizens get to stay in here. And then we actually go to the front office. And so that way, and at the Legion, when we went into executive session, obviously the council would be inside and then the citizens would have to wait outside until executive session was done. So there was a lot of rationale behind those things.
As long as we make this space available for committees,
Mhm.
I don't understand why we need to renew the yearly
Yeah.
lease. We could use it as a verbatim or.
As
Yeah, we still have access to it as needed. If we need to, we just gotta pay to rent it for whatever your day or two or whatever it ends up being.
Otherwise,
Oh, I
make
get
this
it.
available for all the committees.
and I've told Zach, you can use it whenever you want. And typically any committees that have, that are under the city's umbrella typically has city representation on the committee anyway.
Right.
So it makes it very easy from a liability standpoint or access standpoint. And so that's easy too.
Mhm.
So, but I like your point. So are we gonna make a decision? How, what do we want to do? I don't know if it doesn't have to be.
I don't think it really needs to be a motion unless you want to go into a contract, but I don't really see at this point that there's really a necessity for it, so.
So Lacey, why don't you note that we'll contact the Legion on an ad hoc basis as we needed in any city committees or associated committees. So Zach, that if you want to be included in that, you're welcome to. And that will make this space accessible to them. Okay? Does that work for everybody? Brian, you good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Any other thoughts, Brian? We haven't really let you talk tonight.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. On to the capital improvement plan. Justin, are you still with us? Justin Heim, I think you're on mute. Is he here or was he
It
gone?
was just here.
I swear I just saw him.
GS popped up.
Oh. Are you not able to talk on Teams? Oh, did I? I don't think I did. Okay. Can you guys hear this okay?
No.
No.
It's really soft. It's really soft. Can you yell?
Let's just try to jump back on. I'll jump back on, see if you can grant me access, if we gotta bump this down a few. I
Okay,
think that'll work.
okay, thanks, Justin. Justin's gonna try to get on the system really quick just so everybody can hear him, because that's a little crazy for you not to be able to hear him. And
Hey, perfect. I think we're good now. Can you hear
you're
me?
in. Okay, thank you, Justin.
Perfect. No, thank you. Sorry I couldn't be there tonight. It's 2 meetings in a row. I promise I still like you all. So I know I talked about this a little bit, but just to give a little background again. So South Dakota GoEd has a grant that's going to be out. They had a webinar today. It's going to be a $15,000 grant to complete a capital improvement plan for a community 5,000 or less. There's a couple other stipulations, but Baltic would be eligible for this grant. They would have to provide a match of $15,000 to be applicable for this. But what I really wanted to inform everybody on is that the application will be available starting tomorrow with submission January 25th. This will probably fill up pretty quick. It's going to be based on a first come, first served basis. So it's, like I said, expected within those first couple days that at least if not more, applications will be in versus funding available. There is enough funding available for 16 communities, so that will get chewed up pretty quick. A little background on the CIP, it's just a 5-year planning program for the city. So ISG engineers and architects will go through all city-owned public infrastructure, so street, sidewalk, water main, sanitary sewer, as long as public facilities, so city hall, public works buildings, etc. Identify all improvements, look at your guys' budget, and really start planning those projects out for the next 5 years. Really helps a community be proactive versus reactive. You know, instead of saying, hey, we don't have any wastewater. We would identify that as part of this plan and have it budgeted, you know, ideally 5 years out. So like I said, submissions would be taken January 25th. It'd be a couple weeks to go through the applications if they have to do any scoring criteria, if there's more than 16. And then work would start 2023 with anticipation of being completed by the end of 2023.
So Justin, if I got that right, it's the CIP is a cost of 30,000, but the grant offers a stipend of 15 towards it.
Correct.
Okay, so John, with that in mind, then do we need to approve 15,000 towards a capital improvement plan in advance of filling out the application so we have the approval Or do we wait until we're approved and then allocate the funds?
You could certainly have a motion and second and vote on making that 15,000 available in the event the city is successful. And you certainly want to. Justin, are you the one that will assist with the grant application?
Absolutely. So the application will be super quick, easy, simple. But one of those elements on the application will be to provide where your funding match is coming from. So I
Let's
think it
do
would
it.
be a good idea, you know, if you guys would want to move forward, just, you know, have a motion to go forward with the application. That way we don't miss it due to council meetings and approvals. And then with that $15,000 match as well.
Right.
And just for the a matter of history, Ryan, when is the last time we had a capital improvement plan in place?
Probably like never.
So there, as a municipality, there's a couple of things that are really advantageous. One is a comprehensive plan. And I think our comprehensive plan is dated,
It's about 22 years old.
yeah, I think it's about 22 years old. I think that we talked about that. Right. And so definitely a comprehensive plan, which lands in the lap of the Planning and Zoning Committee, definitely needs to be updated. But part of that is a capital improvement plan. And so having, you know, qualified professionals help assist us through that, because I know we're going to be working with CCOG on the comprehensive plan and making sure we get that done. We just haven't started that lift yet. But I think the the capital improvement plan is definitely a necessary piece of that. So these are tools that municipalities consider a best practice in what we have, so we know how to prioritize our expenses and the projects that we have for our city.
Especially with large projects on the horizon.
We have a lot of large projects on the horizon.
Any little thing can help.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so to have a plan on that. Right now, the most current active plan we have for planning is chip seal street rotation, right? Yep. And so that's probably as comprehensive as we get right now. And so my recommendation is that this is a very worthy investment, and I would recommend moving forward with allocating funds for this type. And we do have capital improvement funds, right, Ryan? Yeah, so we have that bucket that we can draw from. So what action would you like to take, council?
I think it's a no-brainer. It's,
Do too.
it puts the city in a much better position moving forward to have trained eyes attacking projects like this. I'll make a motion to approve 15,000 to be used for a capital improvement plan.
Should we be approved?
I would second that, Deb.
Okay, so we have a first, we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes to move forward with the match. Should we get approved for that, Lacey, can you put it on a big sign that either you track me down to work with Justin on this application, or you and Linda to work with Justin on this application to get it done? Justin, do you have time on your calendar tomorrow to walk us through that?
Absolutely. I can
Okay, will you make that a priority for us? Because I believe it is going to be an advantage.
Yep, absolutely. And like I said, we can have it all filled out, and then once it turns January 25th, we can just click submit. So.
Okay, yeah, if you can talk to Linda and Lacey about that tomorrow, and if you need any assistance from me, just let me know, or Ryan Fods, as a matter of fact.
Yep, we can take care of it.
Justin, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, and so on to the next item, the Board of Adjustment acknowledgement. This is simply just making everybody aware that we did have a Board of Adjustment meeting last week. There wasn't a lot acknowledgement statement that was filed. It is made public record on the city website, and that's really all we have to say about it. If you need to see that, you can refer that to the website.
And it's actually a final decision is what it's called. Yeah,
Thank you, John. I didn't really.
no problem.
So that was the final decision on the Board of Adjustment on the appeal. And so on to really fun things, snow removal costs. What we did, it's our understanding that there's been lots of questions about snow removal, and more so about the hauling away of snow removal. Ryan, you're gonna need to help me out on this one. So what we were looking at is there were questions that we saw about you know, why other cities have snow hauled away. And so there are costs associated with that. And so we just wanted to be aware of what those costs are and figure out at what point do we want to make that investment as a city? Because obviously there's an insurmountable amount of snow. And I can't thank Ryan and Ben enough for working nonstop and literally sleeping at City Hall while they were trying to move snow and give us access to our streets. So, and then the neighbors that came out to help neighbors, and I know there were some particular individuals that were helping people that have heavier equipment that can help, help other people that didn't have that equipment to get out. It was incredible to watch the city all work together to try to get safe passage in our roads. Ryan, do you want to speak to this or would you prefer that I do it?
You can grab the number.
Okay. So, from what I understand, we got some quotes from two different, companies. There's a loader expense. And then there's a dump truck expense, and then there's a side dump expense. And so when you're looking at, I don't know if I can read this correctly. It looks like the per hour expense is gonna run us,
About $400 per hour for one and $9 for the.
yeah, it's around $400 an hour for us to haul things out in a side dump. And so,
And you're gonna have problems with side dumps getting in these streets.
right, because they're not long enough.
They're
Right.
very narrow.
And Ryan can speak to that with authority, can't you?
Mhm.
Ryan works in the streets department in Sioux Falls and has extensive experience working 12-hour shifts, not nonstop trying to remove snow in Sioux Falls.
Mr. Fods, how many hours do you think it would take to probably get the city kind of cleaned up and get rid of some of that snow? Just a ballpark.
That's a loaded question, depending
Yeah,
on
that's-
what cleaned up means.
Because a lot of times if they're gonna extend the loader straight on the curb line, you're gonna push until you get a bucket and come down. And it's a lot of movement, but it's a lot of time.
Lot of time.
Because the spoils will go off. I know Dell, we did it, and I think Point Hill's development over by the golf course.
Yeah.
I think we just did probably 5 of those main blocks, and I think we and Dell's used 2 dump trucks and payloader, and it took us 2 weeks. 8-hour days, just to clean probably, I'd say 18 blocks.
So
We
two,
need some 80-degree weather.
It's, I know, just talking to some people from Dell's, like BX does their whole
Yeah.
downtown,
Mhm.
they were still working this week to clean up their downtown. There's
so that's
so
like
much snow.
$32,000, right?
Yeah, I think Del Rapids last year, smaller snows, I think they spent over $100,000, I'm not 100% sure with BX. And that was just contract for downtown. So I mean, it's a huge expense for Ryan, and especially say what the expenses for.
Well, last time I checked, or last time I heard, for one snow event to plow Sioux Falls and to pick up downtown curbside sidewalk is 2.3 million. That's one event. The city budgets for, I think, 6 events. I'm not 100% on that. Well, we're still, as everybody knows, I mean, with this snow, we're still picking up stuff. We're gonna be picking up stuff for, I don't know how long, we're starting around schools tonight. And we have to go to conveyor belt machines instead of blowers, because the blowers are too loud. Because they're in the residentials, most schools are. Can't go around the schools because of noise ordinance with the blowers, so we have to use these ATs or Leeboys. And they break down constantly, and we're starting that tonight, so it's. Snow removal is a nightmare, because one, you can never keep everybody, you'll never keep everybody happy. We have snow gates, everybody knows we have snow gates, they don't work above 6 inches. We tried using them. For this 2 feet, and it just made it worse. I'm leaf late in my route, and I would go in and I have my plow angled more than 65 degrees, just so that I don't leave any on the toe. And I'm still digging into there and carrying it over on the toe. So, I mean, Brian, I feel your pain when it comes to this stuff. I would recommend we let it melt. Because the expense to do this size of a town, not to throw any numbers out there that I would know about, you're like looking at a huge chunk, and you would have to have a surcharge. You would have to have the taxpayers pay the surcharge to pay for this. And that's what we want, is to pay more taxes, because taxes are just going up.
Well, it's gonna be like 31 tomorrow, and then starting Saturday, it's gonna be 33 going forward, so.
And Ryan's gonna be busy looking for inlets. As soon as this stuff starts melting, he's gonna be digging out inlets so that we don't have ice jams and flooding in the streets. It's a nightmare.
Well, and as I understand it, and keep me honest, Ryan, there's a couple of different phases to it. One, it's making sure that we have a single car path, right? So you can get down the road. Then it's a matter of widening the path as time allows, so that way we can get 2 cars down the road. The emergency routes take first priority, because obviously roads in and to and from the school are a priority. You know, making sure that the fire department is accessible, and there's other main arteries that you guys are very acutely aware of to make sure that there's 2 car passing lanes. Then there's like the B roads then. And so then what they do is they try to widen that as time allows, so that way you can at least get past. Those are those roads where your neighbors might park in the road, but you can still get around them, right? And so that would be your B routes. And then it would be the C routes, which you see the single pass. The great example that I have is the road that when you're right going past the old trailer court, and you just have the single car pass going up that street when you go back to the tree streets of Baltic. And so there's gonna be roads like that. Some of those efforts are impeded if there had been parked cars during the snow emergencies, because we haven't necessarily been able to get back and actually plow those spaces. And when they do go back to plow and the car is there, it makes it impossible. And so trying to traverse that is a tricky thing, while also keeping on top of wind and making sure that the A streets are always clean, the B streets to the best of our ability, and the C streets when we get time. And so am I describing this as best I can?
Yeah.
And so there are also certain parts of the town, well, because of the amount of snow that we've had, when they do plow, obviously the snow is gonna go onto the boulevards. And so this is a really good opportunity to explain that the city does have right of way on boulevards to the back of sidewalks. And so that is exactly what we were talking about. I don't know if those of you that recall when we were here, somebody was asking for a fence permit and they wanted to have it butt up, and Ryan very adeptly explained, but when we're doing snow removal, we need to have that space to be able to put snow on the curb and if necessary to the end of the sidewalk. And that's what that right of way is all about, especially in 2 feet of snow. And so there have been questions about sidewalks. Obviously, I'm the sidewalk ordinance is kind of like not applicable right now. It's not reasonable.
My sidewalk.
Well, it's just not even reasonable. I mean, there's some sidewalks that have 6 feet of snow on it right now. It's just not even reasonable. I think that the more appropriate action for our city is just to really watch for kids as they're walking to and from school to make sure that they're safe. But I think all citizens are acutely aware of that, because there are simply some sidewalks that have been used on a regular basis when there's not snow that we literally can't get to. Nor would we expect citizens to try to spend hours and hours and hours to try to dig that out. I'm more concerned about finding fire hydrants. Mike, are there fire hydrants that are still covered that we're looking for? Do we have like?
Beth and Caitlin is buried.
So, is there a way that we can shine a light on those and maybe do a call to citizens to help dig those things out? I mean, what can we do to help you with that?
Get a weed burner. Melt it off.
Blow torch?
Suggestion, just because I'm from Parker.
Mhm.
And they are doing something very cool, I feel. They posted on their city site that if you send in a picture of you digging out a fire hydrant, they will put your name in for a $50 gift card to Ace Hardware.
I love that.
Oh, that's great.
I think Del Rapids just did that.
I feel like that
That's
is.
a great idea.
I mean, that's a great way for people to get involved and help, and that way it's not all on the city maintenance.
I love that. Lacey, would you get that post going? Let's get that going. And in fact, let's do like a dinner for 2 at Someday Cafe.
Got it.
Okay, let's do that. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah,
Great
that's a good
idea.
idea. And so do we have a map of where the fire hydrants are so people know where to look?
We've both been locating them as we're going out
Mhm.
and blowing them out usually, like the one. I don't think Ben knew there was one on Fifth and Palin, so he's up there right now with the snow blower. We're going around. I'm doing just the main thoroughfares where I can push with the payloader onto pretty much empty properties.
Mhm.
Where he's going into the residential and snow blowing it onto the boulevard, probably onto the property, so we apologize to everybody. We're just trying to get the streets wide.
Mhm.
And then we'll have to come with a scenario sheet, say, what do we do if we're gonna get more snow in? If I would have to come back to the payloader to push off the boulevards a little bit, or push them deeper, just to give some room for the future snow. So we're not used to having this much snow in one shot and not melting away, at least a little bit. So right now, yeah, we're working on just widening. So the snow blower will probably do a lot of the residential. I think Kringen and Johnson have been done. We might not get curb to curb. We're just gonna try to make it so it's a little bit easier for traffic to get through and make sure it's passable. And eventually, we might come back, another time to even get a little bit closer to the curbs, especially with the warm weather.
Mhm.
But I know Baltic Heights is one of the ones with the tightest streets.
Yes.
So that's where we're at right now, trying to get that one opened up. And I think on Valley View and Sixth, there's spots. I think Valley View is a little bit worse than Sixth. And I think Prairie and Meadow are okay for traffic, but I mean, there's really a lot of no parking on the streets right now. Or unless you have like a 2-lane, so somebody can get around.
So common sense, if you know people can't get around, you try not to park your car. Bringing up Sixth Street reminds me that this is just a good point of information. There were citizens that were asking about the walking path around Heights, and historically, the city has never cleaned that. It's always been done by volunteers. And right now, because of the amount of snow, getting past that and making that walking path accessible is incredibly difficult. It's a matter of a strategic decision. Because those citizens that live on Sixth Street, we made the decision as a city to go ahead and just push all that snow off to the city park land as opposed to divvying it between Sixth Street residents and park. And so we compromised the walking path in the process of trying to make it a little bit easier for those Sixth Street citizens that, we're splitting the road with. And so, we understand that the walking path isn't accessible right now with the insurmountable snow. I don't know if there's really, I would rather see the city maintenance crew clearing streets rather than clearing a walking path at this time. I think it's a better use of our resources. And so, but when we have the resources available, we can certainly take a look at that. If there's any volunteers that want to help with the walking path, we welcome that as we always have. And then we'll be taking a look at a strategy going on next year. What other elements have I forgotten about the snow removal process?
I got a quick question for Ryan. On intersections, Ryan, do you go back and do you kind of knock down the snow on the curbs on the intersections? Is that part of that kind of what you're doing out there?
Right. To make sure
Opening up
it's
to-
building.
Yeah, because sight lines are really tricky, so be super careful until they can get them cut back.
And right now, kind of like the major thoroughfares, 4th, 5th, 6th, Lovely, First Street, usually away, so there's only a block that people have to travel to a main street. So they don't have to, like Elm Avenue is usually a push one right away, but that's narrow, but it's usually done as a main thoroughfare, just so people can get to some street that's accessible for traffic. And mainly it is, we're just going through with this much snow, it's so hard. I know, like right here down at Second and Lovely, instead of pushing around properties and covering the sidewalk, I pushed it back down to our snow pile. That's going to get us, if we maybe get 10 more inches of snow, we're going to run out of room on Nordic Field. I pushed more snow there this year than I have ever had. Down by the storage units down at by the gas station, there is very limited, and I think Randy Murphy owns it or whatever. We used everything accessible for him for his ground. Then it's all gonna, that's when we're gonna get to the point that we might have to haul it and then ask the elevator if we can use the egg pad to start dumping snow, because we're pushing it down there, but we're out of room everywhere.
Who was the gentleman that was at the meeting that said that he had land that we could push snow on for him? Was it Severson? Is that right?
Yes.
So
He's
Deb,
over on,
would you connect with Ryan on that or get Severson's connected with Ryan? There was a citizen that said that if you want to use his land, you can use it. So if there's any other citizens that have land that we can use to, put that stone, we'll certainly take it. We won't turn it away.
Just a second, on that point, how close is this land to the river?
I don't know.
Severson?
Severson,
Right, like,
it's right uphill, just right
Okay, because it has to be so far from the river. Otherwise, you have to put up a silk fence
Got it.
because of chemicals in this.
I tend to think he's adequately aware. He's at least 2 city blocks, Nikki?
yeah, at least.
And that would be 2 city blocks from the Kramer and Volker
Yep.
area.
I just don't want anybody to get in trouble.
No, and I think his is more in, it's out an alley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's for that alley, it gets really full right there.
Yep.
We're out of space.
Can we use the lots that the city owns that are set aside for future streets?
Yeah.
As another place?
But I was just gonna ask too, between.
Because like down
my
on,
house and Rodney's.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
North Sixth Street.
and then down on First Street
Yep,
at
we
the
usually
end.
do push that. Yeah.
And then also there's that double lot up in the Heights that we still own
Yeah, North Sixth.
on North Sixth.
Mhm.
That,
That's when we push the spoil usually from
Is that
Sunny,
yeah,
we push across
okay,
there to alleviate some of the snow on the corners and stuff
Okay.
like that, but they're very limited and it's just so hard. There isn't much there. It's, the moving is what takes the time.
right, of course, of course. Well, I can't thank you enough for the time and effort that you've had and how much time you and Ben have spent taking care of us, so thank you very much.
I just want to.
He
It's,
hates
it's
that.
hard to, on a normal 3-inch snow, usually we have come here 6 to 8 hours, and that's sanding and everything.
Mhm.
This one, it took me from the funeral home down past Classic Corner, I think it took me 12 or 11 hours to push all the snow down. I mean, it's just pushing it down a hill. It's just,
There's so much of it. It's just,
So I guess we'll just take it month by month and try to figure out how we're gonna address it. So again, if any citizens have questions, it's always more productive to reach out to your alderman as opposed to, other public means where we don't get that messaging. It's always better to get it directly than secondhand.
So are we gonna do anything about sidewalk fees tonight or,
Sidewalk,
like clear your snow off your sidewalk in the first 48 hours?
I think the council has the ability about whether or not to enforce it.
So verbal should be good enough, I believe, right?
Yeah, I don't, we don't have to
made
pass
online
anything.
to make everybody aware of the whole snow ordinance.
Okay.
It was not to penalize anybody for not clearing their sidewalk.
Right, but I
Can't
mean-
clear sidewalk.
However, let me bring something up though. When we have this amount of snow and you're moving your own snow, after we have gone to extensive efforts to get it out of the street, to take snow from your property and put it back into the street is highly unproductive. So,
yeah.
we do know that there's been several citizens that just go ahead and take that snow and put it back in the street, so it just makes it harder to traverse, for your neighbors. And so I know it's difficult for everybody. If you need help, call City Hall. We know a lot of people that are willing to help people if you don't have the means to move your snow, or if you need help widening your driveway or whatever it is. We have a lot of citizens that are willing to step up and help, that have heavier equipment to help with those types of things. And so please utilize City Hall. We can be a connection point for you for those things. Neighbors first. So any other items on snow removal?
Can I ask Brian a question?
Sure.
So over on Caitlin, should they be parking on the streets?
Caitlin's widened out, I think almost curb to curb now again, so they probably can't, 'cause we got that one, Ben got that one done earlier today.
Okay,
So that one, it'd be discretion, but I think it's back to curb to curb. They're narrow streets. If you have a vehicle on
Right.
each side, it's a 1-lane street.
Right.
Like some of the other streets, but I think it is completely done, so people could park back on there.
I just,
Some residents have snow blowed up to their curb, so they can
Yeah.
park their own vehicle back there. So,
Yeah,
what
I
last
was-
Valley View did.
I was just checking. I need to follow back up with this citizen tomorrow, so I want to make sure I have all my ducks in a row, so. Thank you, Ryan.
Brian, you had mentioned that snow can't be pushed within certain boundaries of the river without fencing. Is there prohibits for it being pushed like into Murphy's Pond or the water runway we have there?
Yeah, it shouldn't be pushed to Murphy's Pond. Yeah, because that's the main thoroughfare right to the river.
Yeah.
That's just the normal hauling of snow off the street, though. That's the one thing that's gonna be, it's not hauling it and dumping it there, it's
No.
just.
Correct, and the snow that's usually hauled has chemical in it from salt application, sand application, stuff like that.
The reason I ask is small town comments, why aren't we? And I
Yeah.
thought that was probably with your, especially with your comment about the river, why we weren't. But now it's public record.
Lacey, can you turn that on? Do you have the? I'll turn it on. Any other snow comments that we need to?
Let's talk summer.
Yeah, now that we talked about snow,
How
let's
many days do you
talk about summer.
Follow up, training.
Did you like that?
Yes, and no.
That was deliberate. That was deliberate.
It's a back your height discussion. Hold on. You got one of your yard cleaned up. Have a responsibility.
And that's their responsibility,
It
correct?
is. It is their responsibility.
Other people's,
Yeah.
you should have a map somewhere down here where,
I'd like that.
if not, county does.
Okay, thank you.
There we go. Well, that's weird. Okay. There we go. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because we're considering bringing back the summer rec program. For those of you who don't know, we used to do a program that was coordinated through City Hall to provide summer options for school-age children, typically between the ages of 7 and 13. And so we're in a hypothetical stage right now. So that's an agreement between the school and the city. So just so you know what I'm talking to isn't this document yet, but I'll let you know when I'm talking about that document. So I need to make sure that this is recording still. So weird. There it is. No. Oh, I skipped it. Don't you hate it when I do that? Ryan, this is where you get to say I'm impatient. One more. There we go. Okay, so, I just want to make sure the recording's still going. We should be, yep, okay. So what we're looking at is a program, and I've met with Marissa Whipple and a couple other people from the community. The reason why I met with Marissa Whipple is because she's overseen the summer rec program for a long, long time. So she's kind of like the local expert of this program. What we're looking at is potentially doing a 4-week block in June and a 4-week block in July. It's typically an afternoon program that goes from 12:30 to 5. We're extending it to 5 because of working families. And basically it would be providing afternoon activities for children that is centralized around a, recreational format, whether it would be going to swimming pools, maybe to museums, doing different activities. If there's inclement weather, then the school has been gracious enough to consider letting us use their gym. We would be using the school buses. There's a couple of different expenses involved with it. One, we have to find some bus drivers. We're hoping we'll fill 2 buses. We're hoping. The attendance in the past has been very well received, and we figured since we're starting in January, it will, give us enough time to let parents know what's going on. From what I understand, the really proactive parents start planning their summer camps in February. So I think that we're in a good space right now. And plus it gives the coordinators time to actually plan activities because those things start filling up in February too. We've also talked, so that's in a nutshell, would be a variety of different activities. What I'd like to propose to the council, or at least consider at this moment, because nothing's finalized yet, is that the question is how much does the city pay versus how much the citizens pay? And what I'd like to see is if we are able as a city to subsidize the staffing, the management staffing needs of the communications of this program, which would be the communication tool, the sign up tool, giving the public alerts, using our text function if necessary, the email tool if necessary, and, making the information accessible on the website, to let everybody know what's going on. So we have a central portal of communication. So we would see ourselves having an administrator, basically the rec supervisor that oversees the whole program, and having 2 assistants. The reason why we would have 2 assistants, and one is matter of succession planning and institutional knowledge transfer. So that way we always have someone that's been in the program before coming into the next year. And then, so if the city can subsidize that portion as well as the school expenses, when you look at that, and this document is on the website, basically what this says in a nutshell is that the school would be willing to enter an agreement with the city to allow us to use their gym facilities, whether primarily in the old gym, unless the weather gets too hot, then we can use the new gym or the either the lunch area or the gym, depending on the day, depending on the activity. And then we would be able to use the buses as long as we pay the bus drivers and we pay the gas, kind of like a rental car, you return the full tank of gas, they give it to us with a full tank of gas, that kind of thing. We assume all liability, but they're not going to charge us for wear and tear, which is incredibly generous. I've submitted this to John to review for legal review, and so you're gonna probably get back to us on that and to see if there's any other considerations. And the school board has been more than amenable to move quickly on this and to try to find a way to get to an agreement on this so we can all move forward, because it's a much needed program in our town. And so the ages for this would be 7 to 13. Why 7? Because the Sioux Falls swim program requires a 1 to 10 ratio between the supervisors and children when it's 7-year-olds and up. Once you're 6 and under, it's 1 to 1. So that's why it's 7 to 13. Another reason why we do it in the afternoon is because our athletic acceleration programs happen in the morning. So the people that are most likely to be counselors per se probably will be tied up in the morning, and then they can go to an afternoon job. So it also just fits. And people are somewhat familiar with the summer rec program being an afternoon program. With that being said, it was also suggested that if we can figure out how to coordinate an afternoon program through the city, is there anything we can do in the mornings? And so there's a couple of ideas for that, just bringing everybody into the fold. Is one, we've reached out to other parent groups in Baltic to see if they would want to take on a morning program. The way we're looking at this program, like I said, was 4 weeks in June, 2-week block, 2-week block, 4 weeks in July, 2-week block, 2-week block. So if there's a group like BAA or PTO or boosters or the Baltic athletic parents that want to take a 2-week block and offer services to this group of kids, whether it be, fundamental basics of sports. Hey, let's learn how to play chess. Maybe there's a garden club, that kind of thing to learn, different things for these kids, or we divvy it up and split it up, maybe Boy Scouts. I don't know. We brainstormed a lot of sections. So if you know anybody that oversees one of those groups or you think would be interested in that, we're looking for morning program facilitators, because we are not going to have the bandwidth to take a whole day program. We can handle a half day, not a whole day, but we'd love to offer a whole day. We're just going to need some help. There was also a suggestion that, and I haven't looked into this yet, that the Y does a before school and an after school program. Are you?
I don't have school age kids, but I know people who have taken advantage.
You look like you're recognizing what I'm
Yes.
saying. That's why I'm like, maybe you have information I don't.
We've used Y Club.
Okay, and so there's a Y Club, and maybe we could look to them to handle the morning program, is what we're kind of thinking. That's very much in a preliminary conceptual phase, but I'm all about just sharing the ideas. You can see the summer rec original conversation on the city website, like we record all of our meetings, and you can kind of see that initial discussion. I apologize for the first 7 minutes when I was on mute, so that was neat. And then, yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with it. So we're really excited about the prospect of bringing this back. The biggest holdup was making sure that we had an agreement with the school. It looks like we're going to be green lighted on that. I can't imagine there's going to be any huge
It's
hiccup.
excellent,
So
excellent format.
And the school does a good job with things like that. And so I don't see, or I wouldn't make any recommendation that there would be any reason that this should hold off. So there are a couple of things from the council standpoint, because we haven't really figured out costs yet, is when we were brainstorming, we were figuring the head administrator would probably, in light of our workforce issues, would probably have to pay them about $20 an hour to get someone good that we know that we can just hand this off to. And then the assistants would probably need to make at least $15 an hour so we can get good quality people watching over the program. The counselors, depending on the number of participants, would probably be at $10 an hour, which I know seems low because you can go to McDonald's for 15. But we're thinking because it would probably be in-town kids working an in-town job, you're saving on commuting, gas, wear and tear, convenience, all of the things, the flexibility and being able to work, when you can. The difference in cost is whether or not it's just an afternoon program or a full day program. Because if it's a full day program and if we enlist help with the Y, we may not need counselors or we may need counselors. We haven't looked into all those parameters. And so we're estimating it somewhere between 320 to 400 hours of work for the head administrator if it's a full-time program, half that if it's not. And then same for the assistants. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. And then the counselors and the actual costs of the activities, which would be the swim passes, the entrance to the museums, wherever it is that they go. There's all sorts of different activities they do. Whatever the cost of that is to go to that activity is simply a pass-through expense to the parents. And so we haven't established that cost yet because A, we don't know what all the activities are. And we don't know how many counselors we'll need. And so
Or how many kids will sign up for it.
correct. So we needed to wait for this step before we could really make it public. And so I guess this is our first public really like, hey, we're really seriously thinking about doing this. We think it's a good thing. And so we might start communicating and saying, hey, what's the level of interest? What would you want to do? And people are going to ask for costs and we're going to be like, that really fun answer. Well, it depends how many people sign up, and that kind of thing, because there's a huge difference between one bus and two buses. And then of course that 1 to 10 ratio for counselors. So that makes a difference too. Does anybody have questions about what I just described? Because it's very conceptual right now.
Comment on something that you have not mentioned when you're talking morning and afternoon, and that is lunch.
They bring their own. That's what we discussed.
Okay, because in the past, I can tell you, our local food bank has been approached to assist with bag lunches for kids that otherwise will not have a lunch.
Well, and that's good
because
to
it
know.
won't be provided.
That is good to
So,
know.
Just
I love that idea, Deb.
Yeah.
as you're thinking things, not to say as a food bank board member that we can do that or we will do that. But Marissa has already approached us on multiple occasions for that.
Okay.
That might be another good talk off to your parent organizations or whoever are doing your morning session to see if, they can kind of carry that.
Got it. Thank you
Good
for that,
idea.
because we did talk about lunch. We thought bring your lunch. So you definitely closed the loop on that.
Unfortunately, we know there are kids that will be going hungry.
Right, and we don't want that. So we can certainly figure out a solution with that now that we have the time to do it. Are there any other thoughts on this?
Great idea to bring it back. It's too bad it went away. The COVID era killed it.
It really
That's
did.
fair.
Made it
We've
difficult.
tried every logical way to find some way to make it work, and with what we were dealt with, it was just impossible. So
Yeah, I agree.
I'm glad to see that there's a solution.
Now, I will tell you that in the past, the summer rec program was like $150 for the summer. It's not going to be that cost. It's not going to be that cost. It is more than likely going to be a pass-through for a 1 to 10 ratio for a counselor and any pass-through expenses. Oh, and also we're going to contact the city of Del Rapids to see if we can again do the 2 weeks of swimming lessons in the morning. So we'll have a Baltic week for swimming lessons and be able to shuttle people back and forth for swimming lessons. So I still have to call Del Rapids about that. So that would be a 2-week block of the morning program, if you will. So then we're really just looking for 3 more 2-week blocks.
And if that can be done without charter, a lot of expense to the adults, that's huge. We all have lived here long enough to know how treacherous our river is and we've lost kids to it. Yeah, we don't want that to happen again. So if they can swim, even if it's just a float.
It's worth it. And so, more information to follow on that in all the places that we've already talked about where you can find information. So, okay, yes, sir.
Can I ask, do we have any record of what the city's cost was for, partnering with the Y in the last couple of years? I have.
I think it was a complete pass through, wasn't it? Where the, I don't think we subsidized anything for the Y.
They didn't give us any. I kept asking.
You did.
They would not provide.
What was it?
We can look into it and see if we can find anything, Zach.
I know, just to give you a target, they were doing half days, $75 per kid per week. That's
Right, I remember.
what their cost was. Just so you know, when you start crunching numbers, if that's, it's
And-
$200 a kid, you're probably not going to get an extra.
Yeah, we're trying to keep within that range.
And Zach, I had asked about scholarships, if they were scholarshiping any of the kids, because when you're talking that kind of money with a family that has maybe 4 kids that are in that age group, that takes them out of it altogether. And they would not share information, even when it was requested by our current council at that time, they would not give us that information.
Okay, I didn't know, like I said, the cost of individual.
I remember the
75
75, yeah.
kids, so.
I remember that too, and
They hovered around, I think, 12 enrolled, so if you're thinking 2 bus loads of kids, you're gonna have to come in quite a bit under that, like I said, just.
You might be able to do the 2 bus loads for the swim lessons up in Del Rapids, but yeah.
yeah, well, it depends on what we come up with, because obviously 75 is a lot of pushback. And so we just need to figure out what that number is, but until we have obviously economies of scale help. So the more the kids, the easier it is to do that. And,
Deb?
yeah,
Deb, did Marissa have any historical numbers on how many kids attend that?
See,
17 was the magic number that they gave you.
last year, but I can tell you that when I observed them, when I was in and out of the old elementary, that number was more like on a given day. He's asking about when I believe, Brian,
Yes, when
if
Marissa
I'm
was.
wrong, when Marissa was the director and coordinator. And I believe the last number I heard at that time was 110 kids.
I knew it was over 100.
Pre-COVID area would be interesting to know.
And well, I know it was over 100 because we were thinking you could get about 70 kids on a bus high end, and that's a high end. And I think Bob might have said that it was 71, but that's 3 seating it, so that's crazy. So we're probably looking at I'm hoping we can get 100 kids. I mean, how wonderful would that be? You know, it'd be really great. And so I think it comes down to communication and planning. So as long as now we've got this big roadblock, well, not a roadblock, but we got that question answered. Now we can move forward and figure things out. So we'll come up with something. It's just a half day or a full day, we'll definitely come up with something. Okay? Here's the update on that. As far as Parks Rec Committee, as you all know earlier, we haven't really activated that committee. And so I just wanted to let people know that there is invitations to join the Parks and Rec if that's something that you're interested in doing. If you know anybody that wants to do that, you can. There is a Parks and Rec Committee description, isn't there, on the website? I know there's one somewhere. We'll find it, we'll get it on the website and make a Parks and Rec page so you can take a look at it. Because there is an ordinance that governs the Parks and Rec. So we will make sure that ordinance is available so everybody can review and know what they're getting into when they volunteer. And we will have more information to follow because I'd really like the summer rec program to fall underneath Parks and Rec as well as some other things that we're looking at. So we want to make sure that that committee gets up and running. And plus we like thinking about summer in the middle of winter, right? So more information to follow on that. As far as the digital communication tool, to Randy's point, one of the areas that we know that we would like to engage in is being able to have a vehicle to communicate with all the citizens. Email seems to be an easy way to do that. There is a tool called HubSpot. It's pretty economical. It's like $50 a month and it allows for up to 3 users to use it. And basically it allows us to be able to do group communications with our city at a very reasonable cost. There's tie-ins to the website and metrics and things like that. So that way we can do surveys and, you know, different things like that to have a communication tool. So at $50 a month, what I'm asking, it might be somewhere between 50 and 60 after tax. So it's under 60 a month. Let's just put it that way. It's under 60. And so if I can get approval from the council to engage in that tool, then we'll be able to pull the trigger. Once the text function is up and running, then we'll have the email function. So that way it's very similar to the communication that you experience with the school board, where you get the text that says, hey, take a look at your email, then you get more detailed information with your email on top of all the other tools that we talked about at the beginning of the night. So is that something that the council will be willing to entertain? Or do you have questions?
I've used it. I think it's a good tool. What do I need to do? Just to give you authority to authorize the expense of HubSpot?
Yes.
All right, I'd like to do that, I guess.
I'm assuming that's a motion you just made?
Yeah, correct.
Making sure.
So Brian's making a motion to authorize the mayor to be able to engage in the contract with HubSpot for up to 3 authorized users.
I will second.
Okay, so we got Brian's the first, Nikki's the second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. And then we also have the discussion point, that because not everybody likes to use texting, not everybody likes to use email, everybody has a different form. That's why we went to Shopper too. So we had a free form of communication to all the citizens of the city. Another avenue that we know that there is a lot of interest in is communicating through Facebook. One of the reasons why we have steered away from Facebook is because during our campaigning, we did hear from citizens that it shouldn't be required to be me to be a member on Facebook to know what's going on in my city. And I thought that is an incredibly fair statement. However, there is still a lot of citizens where that is their modus operandi for communication. So I've had some conversations with our council about what can we do, what can't we do, what would be a best practices to create more of a Facebook page if you want to get a hold of elected officials. So that way it isn't necessarily the formal city page, but rather it's a communication or a conduit should social media be your conduit to do that. And there's a couple of concerns. One certainly is quorum, because when you have more than 3 people that are elected officials discussing city business, that's quorum. And then you have to have 24-hour notices. There's all sorts of things like that. So we don't want to get ourselves in a bind on that. So if we did have a Facebook page, it would have to be very closely regimented that any aldermen or elected officials or appointed officials weren't actually discussing policy, but rather referring people to the sources of the policy. So it would be more of a, hey, DM me, I can answer those questions directly, or hey, here's some information to help with your inquiry, but it would be more referring to factual information rather than pontificating on how you interpret what's going on. So I just wanted to get your guys' opinion as council. Is this something we should do? B, are you guys comfortable with getting trained on what those guardrails are? And maybe from the citizens, if that's a vehicle of communication that you guys would be interested in.
Given past history with other groups and organizations that have been out there, I think being able to PM Ryan and say, hey, what's happening on this, that, or the other thing, and not have to worry about me not having to worry about the trolls and the negative Nellies and the people, the you know who I'm talking about, would be great. But if it's gonna be out there where I ask a question and the next thing I know, I'm getting criticism and ridicule and negative comments and all but death threats, then I don't think it's going to be a good thing.
And that's where social media is kind of a precarious space. Because it does, allow, First Amendment rights of freedom for all. So there's definitely that element in there. And, and any citizen would have a right to express their opinion. It's really uncomfortable wanting to vet comments because we should be able to allow free expression. That's why we've kind of avoided that whole path of communication because it's a slippery site.
I'm very skeptical in using Facebook in this. The idea is great, like you said, to be able to have this little hub to communicate with your alderman or your mayor or whoever, but I don't think that's the direction that I want to go as far as, I mean, most of us are all out there. I think we're all on Facebook anyways. You guys all have access to us if you want to find us on there anyways. If you want to message us, message me, message anybody, that's still a possibility that it can be done. But making a Facebook page, like you said, for the quorum reason, and it just seems like a really slippery slope to me that I don't know that I would want to venture down.
I appreciate your opinion because it is something that has been a very difficult processing on my end too. There's so many pros, but there's also so many cons.
Well, what's the legal aspect of it?
Well, if any one of us starts discussing or making decisions, it is very easily misconstrued as an opinion of the city. And it could create a lot of problems, particularly in the area of open meeting law. Because if it is a public forum and there's actually policy discussed and pros and cons of those policies, or in any inference of an opinion, then it's an open violation of open meeting law. So there's a lot of slippery slopes there. And it might be something as simple as like, oh, hey, I don't think that we should, have the ice skating rink, because some of my, I mean, it could be something as simple as that, because that could be misconstrued as a vote. So there's a lot of pros and cons to that, which is why we have absolutely stayed away from it. Because there's just a lot of.
Well, maybe we should stay away from it altogether then.
But I just wanted people to understand, because there has been opinions that we've heard is like, how we don't get any feedback on this. And then there's certain sites where people are voicing their opinions about matters of the city, and there's no alderman speaking up, but there's a reason for that. And so there are other, even the previous administration, which is well aware that we did not agree on many things. However, we did agree on the fact that Facebook is not necessarily the right forum. And Brian, to your point, when I ran the first time, I voiced every opinion I ever had. But then on the second run, I didn't. I kept it to the facts because I understand the slippery slope of a social media page. And so I just wanted to bring it and be transparent about it, because it's not that we don't want to be available. We're trying to come up with all the tools to be available. I don't know if Facebook's that tool is willing to entertain anything.
And making sure that how we are available is available as well, whether it's on Messenger, phone, city emails, all that stuff. We have access, my city emails on my phone, and anybody's more than welcome to email me at any time, so.
So what if on the city Facebook page, would the alderman feel comfortable having a link to their DM or, how to reach them via Facebook directly? So it's not necessarily posting on the city Facebook page, not necessarily having, a big old forum I should say, on our own personal pages, because I really don't want to get into that on my own personal page. I like to share recipes and things like that. It's not really. Yeah, Pinterest. I don't really want to go there. But maybe there's a place that we could through the city website. So if people want to reach out to us via Facebook, they can. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I don't know what the right way to go about that is. I mean, I've had people reach out to me on Facebook and Messenger and whatnot, it's private conversations, so I mean, I don't know how.
Well, and on being both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
As a citizen prior to holding office, I really felt like there was no other way to be heard. I felt like if I went to Facebook and I said something, then I would corroborate with other people that agreed with me, and it made me feel like I was right. And it made me feel like I was doing something, but then someone pointed out to me very rightly that complaining on Facebook doesn't fix anything, because you need to actually go to the people making the decisions. So in response to that, I went to every city council meeting. I asked every question to the council directly, just not unlike you guys are doing tonight, and which is way more productive than voicing that on Facebook. And so, I've been on both sides. I've been crucified on Facebook. I've been praised on Facebook. I have crucified on Facebook, and I have praised on Facebook. And so I've been on all areas of this. I'm still just really hard pressed about using that as a tool to discuss city government, but I'm open to anything. Brian, you've been mysteriously quiet. Do you have any
Yeah,
thoughts?
I'm just back and forth on it. You know, I want people to reach out to me if they have an issue. It'll take 1 or 2 calls a week, it seems like, and I love it when people call and if they have concerns. I just wonder if that is the right spot for it.
Well, I do think that if we make an effort to be attainable in all sorts of other ways, maybe it will make Facebook the least desirable path. I don't know. You know, I don't want to shun people from trying to reach out to us with their preferred method of communication, but at the same time, I just wanted people to be very clear and understand what we can and can't do as elected officials on, you know, and I don't know, have we sufficiently discussed that?
And so,
Okay, all right. So we're gonna just not move forward with that, I take that?
Hey, Deb,
Yeah?
John, what's your opinion on that?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, the best answer I can give you is that I probably need more specifics of what topics will be engaged in by the council members. And I'd also want to reach out to the municipal attorney's website nationally and see what kind of pros and cons and pitfalls that municipal lawyers across the country have encountered with city council members using Facebook or social site as some way of interacting with constituents. Because I don't know that I have a whole bunch of parade of horribles I could lay out, but I don't think that's gonna help anybody. So.
At the end of the day, the best tool is the phone. At the end of the day, your alderman directly and having the conversation, getting your questions answered directly
Send a
is
message.
100% the best way to get the answer that you want. If you don't want the answer and you just want to, you know, go to the masses with your complaints, that's another way to handle it, but it's probably not as productive. And
Yeah,
so,
I'll take
and being someone who did that, I can say that with authority. It's not as productive and, you know, it doesn't always shine well on you, to Brian's point.
So John, if I'm on my personal Facebook page and I reach out to say Deb on her personal Facebook page, and I want to talk to her about the dog do that's down on Elm, isn't that just us having a private conversation? Doesn't that eliminate the slippery slope?
That's a difference between Messenger and actually making a post.
yeah,
Because there's Messenger and then there's Facebook.
But I'm trying to take the best of the world and leave the worst behind.
In that context, there's no problem with that kind of
yeah, that's just,
outreach.
it's a private conversation.
So
For reference,
Constituency interaction, totally.
Whatever,
Perfectly
text
fine.
for reference, our last attorney and prior to John, post and pre-John, I guess you could say, was adamantly against any sort of Facebook involvement by any of us, because it's tough to defend in that situation. It's
tough to police.
Yeah, it's just, it's not, it's.
Thank you.
It's not.
Yourself, so.
The difficulty is where statements are made public. Where, and then there's a whole bunch of other people that follow somebody, and then all of a sudden you're having this public conversation and words aren't carefully chosen and things are misunderstood.
Emotions get involved.
Offense is taken and sometimes it's justified and.
And if you would like not to answer, then you're crucified for that.
Well,
And
and
you
tone
can't
is
get rid of-
everything. Tone's everything. So, you know, and that makes it tough. So, okay, well then, John, if you feel like it, you can investigate it a little bit further, but I wouldn't consider it a high priority. But I just want people to know that we've looked at it, we've discussed it, we've considered it, you know, we're trying to figure out ways to reach out to the community so that way, the citizens know how to get a hold of us. So thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to add anything on that? Okay.
Just to reiterate, on the city website is all the aldermen's phone numbers and emails. And, you know, I think most of us have our cell on there, so texting also obviously works as well. And if you have questions, I mean, I'll take them all. And if you want, I'll come to you with the answers. I mean, whatever it takes.
And all of our emails are just, other than me, all of them are their first name at thecityofbaltic.com. So it's really easy to find them. I think the emails are on the website too. Gosh, Ryan, you haven't really been busy lately. Do you have a maintenance update for us? I think we kind of covered it all, didn't we? Yeah, we covered it all. And again, thank you for all your work. From a city hall update, did Linda give you any finance updates other than the fact that we're just chugging stuff done? Okay. And then text my gov, any updates from those guys?
They will take about 2 to 3 days to upload the file that we just sent them.
Okay,
So there will be a message going out to those that have not signed up on the Text My Gov service as an opt-in. If you don't want it, it's your choice, but we're just trying to keep the communication line.
just to let you know what that means, Text My Gov is the service that we use as a city to be able to do texting to all citizens. We have about 283 names in that portal right now, and we've been asking everybody to join it. So we've decided now that we have collectively added as many cell phones that we can gather in the city of Baltic, and now we have imported them into our Text My Gov tool. It will take 2 to 3 days, and text will go out to everybody that we have a phone number for. And you can choose to opt into that text service or choose not to opt into that text service. And so if you don't get that alert, it's because we didn't have your number for whatever reason. But if we do have your number, you'll be getting that alert because we're really trying to get people on this service. There are some robust capabilities with this tool that, like, let's say we're chip sealing on your road. We wouldn't have to text the entire town that we're chip sealing a single road. We would be able to text just the people on the road.
Well, the debuncle with the garbage last week.
Yes, you could
If
do
I,
real
would-
time.
if I wouldn't have got that message, I wouldn't have been able to call my dad, have him come over to my place, get the garbages out. And as he got there, they were coming down my street.
So there's a lot of real-time advantages to the text service. And so, you know, like, what if there were a fire and we need to let people know for safety purposes to stay away from a certain intersection or whatever. I don't know.
You don't want to text time.
No.
I'm just making it up, I'm winging it here. You know, or what if we have to shut the water off? What if we have to shut the water off because we have to do something with the main? Then we just let that section of the city know rather than everybody. So there's some GPS functionality with those. I'm sorry, that was a bad example. It's been a long day, I've been up a long time. So just be aware that that text alert is coming. We're trying to make sure that we increase our communication to everybody. Let's see here, as far as an update, I was checking to see if there was anything other than elections. That seems to be the big thing. The grants that we know that we're up for, there are some trainings coming this summer. And those seem to be the biggest things that I have on our end. From the council, is there anything that you guys want to discuss quickly as an update? Are we still waiting on parts for the ice rink? Those haven't come in.
We're just now using the snowboard.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
That, what our main.
We're using the space
Being off the rink area.
now being used for streets.
Yep.
Yep, got it. Okay, because I know some people would.
So that's the little bit, I mean, once we get that freed up, we will go clean it off and get it set up and stuff, so.
Okay, just asking because we were asked. Thank you, Ryan. And yes, Brian?
I just said, thanks, Ryan.
Perfect. And so with that being said, we just need to have a brief executive session for matters relating to legal counsel and for personnel. And not necessarily, I don't know if this really goes into contract negotiation, but we may end up talking about that. So what we'll do now is I'm going to put this on pause and stop recording, and then I will go back into recording when we can I have a motion to go into executive session? I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session at 8:53 PM.
At 8:53 PM, Nikki is executive session, Ryan's the second, so we are, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're gonna go into executive session. McGreevy, we'll just call you on your cell phone, if that's all right.
Yep.
All right, what I'm gonna do then here, so you guys see how the sausage is made, I'm stopping recording.